the day humans learned to imagine tomorrow. For most of human history, life existed almost entirely in the present. Because imagining a future that did not yet exist served little purpose when survival depended on immediate reaction. To understand when humans learned to imagine tomorrow, we must return to a time when decisions were made moment by moment, guided by hunger, danger, and opportunity rather than plans or projections. Early humans responded to what was happening, not to what might happen. The cognitive architecture of the early mind was built for the present tense. Perception was immediate. Responses were reflexive, and the horizon concern extended no further than the current situation demanded. The future was vague. Seasons were felt, not predicted. Consequences arrived without warning. Preparation was instinctive, not strategic. Animals store food and migrate without understanding the concept of future time. Early humans likely operated in a similar mode, responding to environmental cues without forming explicit representations of what was coming next. The difference between instinctive preparation and deliberate planning is the difference between reacting to a pattern and imagining a scenario. But slowly, something changed. Humans began linking actions to delayed outcomes. Storing food mattered later. Certain paths led back to familiar places. Choices made now echoed forward. The connection between present action and future consequence was not obvious. It had to be constructed by a mind capable of holding two temporal states simultaneously, the world as it is and the world as it might become. This was not planning yet. It was anticipation. Someone realized that today could influence tomorrow. That effort could be delayed for reward. That time could stretch beyond the present moment. This realization required a form of mental projection that went beyond memory. Memory looks backward. Anticipation looks forward. The ability to project the self into a future state, to experience in imagination what has not yet occurred, was a cognitive leap of extraordinary significance. This mental shift was subtle but profound. Humans began acting not only for survival now, but for survival later. The present moment acquired a new dimension. It was no longer just a place to be. It was a launching point for something that did not yet exist. Actions gained a forward-facing quality, evaluated not only for their immediate effect, but for their contribution to a state of affairs that existed only in the mind. The future stopped being a mystery. It became something to imagine. And once humans could picture tomorrow, the present was never the same again. As humans began imagining tomorrow, their behavior started changing quietly but permanently. Because once the future could be pictured, the present became something to prepare with intention. Food was no longer consumed immediately when found. Some was saved, some was hidden. Hunger today was tolerated to prevent hunger later. Delayed reward entered human thinking. The ability to endure present discomfort in exchange for future benefit required a form of self-control that had no precedent in purely present-focused cognition. The mind had to override the body's immediate demands in service of an outcome that existed nowhere except in imagination. Movement changed as well. Paths were chosen not only for safety now, but for where they would lead. Camps were placed with return in mind. Familiar places gained value because they existed in the future as much as the present. The landscape itself became temporal, understood not just as a current arrangement of features, but as a network of possibilities extending forward in time. This ability to anticipate reshaped emotion. Fear extended forward. Hope appeared for the first time. Anxiety emerged alongside opportunity. Humans began feeling not just what was happening, but what might happen. The emotional spectrum expanded to include feelings about events that had not occurred. Dread, anticipation, excitement, and worry all depend on the ability to imagine a future state. And once that ability existed, these emotions arrived as inevitable consequences. Social bonds deepened. Promises mattered because they pointed forward. Cooperation depended on trust in outcomes that had not arrived yet. Group survival relied on shared belief in a future worth preparing for. The concept of obligation, of owing something to another person at a later time, required both parties to inhabit a shared imagined future in which the debt would be recognized and settled. But this shift also introduced tension. Imagining tomorrow meant realizing it could be worse. Scarcity could be anticipated. Loss could be feared before it happened. The future became both motivation and burden. The mind, having gained access to tomorrow, could not restrict itself to optimistic projections. It imagined threats as readily as opportunities, creating an entirely new category of suffering in advance of events that might never occur. Still, humans leaned into it. Preparation improved survival too reliably to ignore. Those who imagined better futures outlived those who did not. The selective advantage of future thinking was so powerful that it rapidly became one of the defining features of human cognition, shaping not just behavior but the structure of the mind itself. The mind had crossed another boundary. Life was no longer lived only in the moment. It was lived in expectation. As imagining tomorrow became normal, it began reshaping human psychology at a deeper level, because once the future could be held in the mind, it started influencing every decision in the present. People compared possible outcomes before acting. Choices gained weight. Regret appeared as a concept, because actions could now be judged against futures that never happened. Responsibility expanded beyond the moment. The ability to imagine alternative outcomes meant that every decision carried with it the shadow of its unchosen alternatives, creating a new form of psychological complexity that purely present-focused minds never experienced. This ability also altered power. Those who could predict better gained influence. Leaders emerged who promised safety, abundance, or success tomorrow. Authority shifted toward those who claimed control over what had not yet arrived. The ability to articulate a compelling vision of the future became one of the most powerful tools of social influence, allowing individuals to shape group behavior by shaping group expectations. Culture followed. Myths turned toward destiny. Rituals aimed at future favor. Planning embedded itself into tradition. The idea of progress was born from the belief that tomorrow could be better than today. Entire belief systems organized around the future, from agricultural calendars that structured the year around to anticipate a harvest, to religious frameworks that extended the imagined future beyond the span of individual life. But imagining the future also introduced constant tension. Worry grew alongside hope. Humans began carrying imagined problems as emotional weight. The present became crowded with futures that had not happened. The mind, unable to distinguish fully between imagined scenarios and real ones, responded to projected threats with genuine stress. The body prepared for dangers that existed only in thought, producing a chronic state of alertness that had no precedent in the present-focused world of earlier cognition. This created inequality of perception. Some saw opportunity, others saw a threat. The same future could inspire or paralyze, depending on belief. The ability to imagine tomorrow did not guarantee wisdom about what to imagine. Optimism and pessimism became competing frameworks for engaging with the same cognitive capacity, and the balance between them shaped individual psychology and group culture in divergent ways. Yet the skill could not be abandoned. Anticipation saved lives. Planning improved outcomes. Imagining tomorrow became inseparable from being human. The cost of future thinking, the anxiety, the regret, the chronic tension of carrying imagined scenarios, was consistently outweighed by its benefits. The mind had learned to travel forward in time, and once it could do that, it would never fully return to the present. The climax of imagining tomorrow was not planning, but consequence. Because once humans could picture the future, they became responsible for it. Choices were no longer judged only by immediate survival, but by what they created days, seasons, and generations later. The future became a space humans felt obligated to protect, improve, and control. Progress emerged from this obligation. So did pressure. Hope and anxiety grew from the same ability. Imagining tomorrow allowed humanity to build shelters, store food, create systems, and pass knowledge forward. It made civilization possible. Every institution, every infrastructure, every cultural tradition exists because someone imagined a future that required it and then acted in the present to bring it about. But it also made the present feel incomplete. Moments were lived in preparation for something else. Satisfaction was postponed. Attention drifted forward. The present became a means rather than an end, a staging ground for futures that, once reached, would themselves become staging ground for further futures. Even today, this discovery defines us. We plan, worry, invest, and dream constantly. We live inside futures that have not yet arrived, sometimes forgetting the present entirely. Imagining tomorrow gave humans direction, but it also taught them how to leave now behind. Sometimes the smallest shift in perspective becomes the beginning of a new future. The day